Chapter 1: The Train That Should Not Be. Daniel Cade had always found underground spaces strangely comforting, something about the muted world beneath the city, removed from traffic, noise, and the sun he rarely saw anyway. But tonight, as he descended the rusted service ladder into Red Line 6, a metro station sealed 12 years ago, comfort was the last thing he felt. The overhead emergency lights flickered in a sickly amber glow. Water dripped steadily from exposed pipes, echoing like distant footsteps. Cables dangled from ceiling panels like lifeless vines. Everything smelled of iron and cold dust. It was his first night alone guarding the site. The dismantling crew had left hours earlier. He checked each corner, each platform edge, and every sealed door. Nothing alive down here. Nothing but him. That's why, when he heard the unmistakable roar of a train, metal grinding, brakes screaming, air rushing, Daniel froze. The Red Line 6 track had been disconnected, welded shut, and sealed in concrete. Yet the sound was coming right at him. A rush of cold wind blasted through the tunnel. The platform lights, dead for more than a decade, burst to life one by one in a bright white stutter, thunk, 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 as if lighting the way for something approaching. Daniel stepped forward. No train. Just empty tracks. But the lights stayed on. And near the very edge of the platform, glistening wet against the dusty floor, were fresh footprints leading into the tunnel marked "No access, Tunnel 3B." Daniel's radio crackled suddenly, the speakers whining into life. Then the old PA system, long dead, issued a soft, distorted announcement. "Daniel! Platform 3!" The hair on his arms rose. It had spoken his name. Chapter 2: The Shadow Passenger. Daniel followed the footprints only to stop after 7 steps. Because at the far end of the platform, illuminated faintly by the newly powered lights, stood a man-shaped shadow. Perfectly still. Facing the tracks. Back turned to him. Daniel opened his mouth to speak, but his voice came out thin. "Sir? The station is closed. You can't be." The shadow tilted its head a fraction. Just enough to let Daniel know it heard him. Not enough to show its face. Then, as the lights overhead flickered, it vanished. Not walked away. Not moved into the dark. Vanished like smoke. Daniel felt a pressure in his skull, a headache blooming behind his eyes. He squeezed his eyelids shut. When he opened them, the tunnel stretched longer than before. Impossibly long. The ceiling panels were reversed, the lights running backward like he'd stepped into a reflection of the station instead of the station itself. He blinked again. Normal. Mostly. His hand tightened around a small object in his pocket, the scorched, half-burned punch ticket he kept out of guilt. He didn't know why he'd brought it tonight. Maybe to remind himself what he'd done. Maybe to punish himself. Or maybe because deep down, he felt he deserved whatever waited for him here. The PA system crackled again. "Operator, error, casualties, 12. Daniel's stomach twisted. The voices were not talking about the station's past. They were talking about him. Chapter 3: Memory Underground. He wasn't supposed to think about the accident. But the station seemed intent on dragging it out of him. The floor vibrated, the unmistakable tremor of a train barreling nearby. Only there was no train. The tracks remained silent and empty, yet the air thrummed with mechanical force. His vision flashed white. Then, another memory. He was back in the control booth of Red Line 6, but younger, sweating under the dim emergency lights. The night of the fire. The system overload warning he ignored. The frantic voice of the conductor. "Brake assist failing! I can't stop it!" Daniel swallowing hard, too ashamed to admit he'd missed the signal reset. The explosion of sparks. The fire. The screams. 12 dead. One of them the conductor who had begged for help in his final seconds. Daniel gasped, gripping the tunnel wall as the vision dissolved. The real station returned. But his legs felt heavier, as if the darkness carried weight. Something moved behind him. He whipped around. No one. But on the opposite platform stood the shadow again, this time closer. Its form was more defined, the outline flickering like heat above a flame, and a faint glow pulsed deep within its chest, as though embers still smoldered there. Daniel stepped back instinctively. The shadow stepped forward in perfect sync. Then the PA system whispered softly, "See what you've done." Chapter 4: The Impossible Tunnel. Daniel forced himself to follow the footprints into Tunnel 3B, though every instinct screamed to turn back. The deeper he went, the more reality seemed to warp. Pipes overhead ran in spirals rather than straight lines. Emergency lights pulsed like a heartbeat. The air felt thicker, vibrating with the phantom roar of a train that never arrived. His flashlight beam wavered. Every few seconds, he caught something just behind him, like a silhouette slipping behind pillars, always out of focus. The sound of footsteps echoed too closely to be echoes. At one point, Daniel touched the tunnel wall for balance. It was warm, as if something on the other side burned fiercely. He reached the old conductor's booth, the place he used to watch during late shifts. The glass was shattered. Black scorch marks crawled along the walls like veins. Inside, in the middle of the small room, stood the shadow figure. Only now Daniel saw it clearly. Its body was charred black, skin cracked like cooling coal. Smoke drifted off its shoulders. Its face was a melted ruin, but two faint, ember-like eyes stared from the darkened sockets. Daniel staggered back as the apparition stepped toward him. Then the tunnel behind it erupted into blinding white headlights. A phantom train, massive, screeching, impossibly fast, charged through the sealed tunnel without rails, without sound, yet carrying pressure strong enough to lift Daniel off his feet. He screamed as the world dissolved into burning light. Chapter 5: What the Cameras Saw. Daniel woke to shouting. Bright LED beams cut across his vision. Emergency responders swarmed around him. Someone was pulling him onto a stretcher. He was lying across the tracks. Not where he had been. Not near the conductor's booth. Back on the main platform. "Jesus," a paramedic whispered. "How did he get down here alone?" Another voice argued. "But the station has no power. So how were the lights on?" Daniel tried to speak, but his throat burned. His fingers closed around the scorched punch ticket, now warm as if freshly burned. They carried him out. Later, though he wouldn't remember hearing it, one of the rescue workers said something that made the others fall silent. "Check the CCTV. He must have followed someone down there." Hours later, inside the control room, a technician reviewed the footage. There was Daniel, talking loudly, pleading with someone unseen. Then backing away from thin air. Then screaming at a blank patch of darkness. But the technician froze the footage at one frame. Then zoomed in. Because in the far corner of Platform 3, behind Daniel, just before the cameras went dead, stood a shape. A tall human silhouette. Burned. Blackened. Watching him. And as the footage ended, the last frame captured two distant white lights glowing in the sealed tunnel. As if a train were coming. One that hadn't run in 12 years. One that wasn't done with Daniel Cade. Not yet.